Hey everybody, welcome back. Listen, today we're going to do something a little bit different. Okay, we often talk about leadership and change, but what if we added a new dimension to it? Today we have Croft Edwards joining us. He's a master certified coach and the author of The Liquid Accordion. Croft, welcome to the show.
It was great to be here. I'm excited for our conversation.
Very good. Every moment tests you. Every action defines you. This is the prestigious initiative where mindset becomes muscle and character becomes legacy. I'm Chris Bean, martial artist, coach, and relentless believer in growth. If you're here to sharpen your edge, lead with integrity, and build a life that echoes beyond your years, you're home. You can find the podcast on social media at PrestigiousPod. You can find me at Chris Bean Official, and the email for the podcast is prestigiousinitiative@gmail.com. Croft, how have you seen the integration of somatics in leadership transform the way we approach change and growth?
Well, so somatics, for the listeners who may not know, is fundamentally the body. And for me in my journey, if we go back, for most people, if you think about it, you're in a situation, a leader walks into the room, and we as humans already have a story of who this person is. Right? They may not have said anything, but we're already making stories based on what do they show up, how do they show up in their body, right? So I look at this idea that the body actually is the holy grail, because how we show up in our body, and the body is more than just a vessel to get us from A to B, how we show up determines what's possible, because we cannot do what our body cannot do. So you and I cannot fly. Our body isn't designed. A bird's body allows them to fly. But if we kind of take that down, if I need to be open, but my body won't allow me to be open, I can't be open. If I need to be resolute, but I don't know how to be resolute in my body, I can't do it. So the body actually, when we think about leadership, the body is the vessel, but it's bigger than that, because it does house our emotions. It does house our stories. And it's how we show up somatically then that determines that what's possible in a conversation, in a relation, or any situation.
And that goes for both us, let's say from the leader's perspective, how we present ourselves in our body, but also how we are viewing other people based on the things that we see. So I get the sense that this is more than trying to read body language.
Absolutely. So the idea, we see the world not as it is, we see the world as we are. Right? So if I've got a very armored up body and I'm looking around for a leader, and I see somebody who, in my eyes, my story has a soft body, I may say that's not a leader. Right? Or vice versa. They may look at somebody who's bulked up and go, oh, that's not somebody I want to follow. Because in my background's in what's called ontological coaching and generative coaching, a distinction we have around leadership is management is the authority granted to an individual by the organization. So the organization goes, here you go, you're a vice president, you're a whatever you are, and with this comes authority. But leadership is the authority granted to an individual by the follower. So only a follower can say, you're somebody that I want to follow. Right? And so, simple example, and I'm not getting into politics, but with our current president, I could find roughly 50% of the population go, that's somebody I want to follow. And then roughly 50% say, that's somebody I won't follow. But that person hasn't changed. It's simply how we see them, right? So it is more than just, what's my body, but that's a powerful way that I show up in my body that determines what's possible, right? So if I want to open a conversation, I've got to be open in my body.
I think that, and I've heard this before, and you can tell me if this is correct or not. And I think this links right in. We're looking for that person that's like us, that where we're going to go to follow. With that kind of train of thought, is the things that often irritate us most in other people are perhaps maybe not necessarily flaws in them, but are things that irritate ourself in ourself, but we're projecting it on the other people.
Absolutely, yeah. So I see the world not as it is. I see the world as I am. So if I have an assessment that somebody is, certain behaviors are good or certain behaviors are bad, then that person, when they show up, they're going to foot that bill. And it even goes more biological than that, right? We have what we call conditioned or historical tendencies. So if you think about it, when we're born, a baby is just a very much a blob, right? It's a blob of DNA, but baby doesn't have much muscle tone. But what we know is that as a baby starts to evolve, when their eyesight comes in, when there's a loud noise, they immediately look to their caregiver to go, how am I supposed to react? They also then, we don't grow up in a vacuum. We grow up in some sort of community. And in there, we learn, oh, this is good, this is bad. And our body, our being starts to make shortcuts that, oh, people like this are good, people like this are bad. And it's not necessarily in itself a bad thing. We have to have that because that's how we evolve. But then that determines how I see the world. And so now what I see as a leader, right? On one hand, yes, I have choice. Oh, that's what I see as a leader. But so much of that's already been built into my system that this is what a leader is. Hmm. And so I cannot not see the world from a viewpoint.
And okay, so I guess that brings it all the way back that the things we look for in a leader are often like there can be a line drawn to how our parents were or specifically our upbringing, because that was our first touch on what a leader looked like. And we're going to fall back to those, let's say, pre-programmed responses or pre-programmed qualities, because that's what's in our subconscious. Those things get programmed into us before we're 7 or 10 or so. And those are the things we're going to kind of look for. Oh, they remind me of my mom or my dad. And then you're going to be more apt to follow those people.
Well, yes or no, because it could also be maybe I'm not going to follow them. Right? Because whatever story I say, oh, this is good, this is bad. So we are the nature, the nurture, right? And the choice piece. So we have all of that kind of percolating in the stew that is us. And my sister and I grew up in a very similar environment, and yet we have very different views of the world. How is that possible? Well, I maybe took something and go, oh, I want more of that. She may have taken it and said, no, I want less of that. Right. So we still have that, but inherent in there is leaders, how they show up. We're already making these stories. We're already making assessments. And for most of us, we're just blind to we even do that. We just look and go, oh, that's a good leader. Right. We never stop to actually think, well, why do I make that assessment? What are the traits in them that I see that I actually think those are good traits?
Okay, so we kind of touched on this, I think, a little bit. Can you walk us through maybe some key principles of somatics and again how they can be applied to leadership and even how they could be applied to coaching?
Well, so we have a place we started in somatics, or an idea we have is that we have a shape. And when we talk about shape, I'm literally talking about the actual shape of my body. Right? Because again, so if I take my face, my background is U.S. military. So one of the things I learned how to do was to armor up my face. So it's very easy for me to, right? That's neither good nor bad, but that does affect how I see the world. So I actually have practiced how do I soften my face. And I don't know that I've been successful, right? Because my face is the way it is. So my literal face, right? So if you think about people, there's some people that Betty White, she just showed up as somebody I'd want a hug from, right? And other people, you go, well, I don't know if I want a hug from them. They seem kind of brutal, right? And so we have this shape that then determines how I navigate the world. So if, for instance, my body is very armored up, now as I navigate the world, when things bump into me, literally and figuratively, I just kind of brush them out of the way. But if I'm very soft, now if I bump up, that may cause me to recoil. So my actual shape is now determining how I'm showing up in the world. And we all have our own shapes, which are part, driven by our history, our DNA, how we navigate the world, what traumas or challenges we've faced. We then have the shape. That the title of my book is called The Liquid Accordion. And there's a reason behind that. Because if you think about it, the body, if we go to the very, very basal level, is built of cells. Well, what is a cell? Well, it's fundamentally just water with some little skin, basically, and then DNA and hormones and all those things. And a cell can do one of two things, really. It can expand, it can contract. right? So that's how it deals with the world around it. Now, if we take a bunch of the same cells, like take skin cells, skin then can expand, contract. And it's doing that to navigate the world that's being presented. Layers form tubes, expand, contract. Tubes form organs, expand, contract. So in any given moment, oh, and by the way, muscles fundamentally expand and contract. We are this liquid accordion that is now navigating the world. And how the body, because the brain is part of the limbic system, and all of the sensors for the brain are the body: eyes, nose, mouth, ears, skin, heart, gut, genitals, hands, feet. All of these different places have sensors. And as the body starts to collect data, it's sent from the hands or sent from the eyes to the brain, which then says this situation's happening. Emotions are created, and I'm oversimplifying it. I don't claim to be the biological PhD, but it's all of that so that in that moment my body can take on a shape to navigate the world. So if I said something to you which was shocking, you would likely do this. Right? Mm-hmm. You did it. I didn't have to tell you what to do. Well, on some level, if you think about shock, on some level, the body senses in some form. It could be temperature, it could be light, it could be something. That data, the body then, very complex, but we're oversimplifying it, goes to the brain and says, I just got some data that is potentially life-threatening, and I don't know what to do with it. So suck in oxygen to flood the system. We pop back, eyes open wide, to collect more data so that the brain can say fight, flight, or freeze all in a millisecond. And it's human, right? We all do it. Because why? Because the body actually says, oh, I've got to take action, because the body does have a purpose, which is to protect us. That's why if you see somebody in a fight that's getting beat up, what do? We go to the fetal position, right? Why? Because in that moment, I'm protecting all of my vital organs. But yet, if I'm confident, how do I stand? Shoulders back. Now, what am I doing with every vital organ? I'm actually exposing it to danger. But my story is, and I'll be okay, right? So how does Superman stand? He stands like this, not like this, right? So in that moment, if I'm confident, oh, there are situations out here I can handle. If I'm scared, protect, I don't know what I can do. I don't know how to handle it. But the event itself is neutral. The body and the observer makes a story that then determines how I see the world. So how all that shows up in coaching is, for most people, what they don't see, they see the event as the thing. My boss is a jerk. What they don't see is, oh, I've created a story. I've got an emotion to it, and my body has already created all of this. And now I don't see the world as it is. I see the world as I am, because I'm scared. I got to protect. I got to do this. Or I'm confident. I can take action. I can have a conversation.
And firstly, what a very interesting and unique way to approach this, but which is much different than what I've heard in the past for this. So that makes it very easy to understand. Secondly, is the starting with the shape, like the way we stand, the way our faces, the natural things that we do tell a lot about the history that we had to go through, or that we did go through to get to where we are today. And I suppose if you are real keyed in on those things, if you understood what that looks like and how past events show up in today, it's pretty easy to kind of meet people where they're at. So talking about leadership or coaching a lot of times is making that connection with people. If we can immediately kind of get some of these things right, one, so that we can present ourselves as a leader, so we can make that connection on the onset. And then again, when we are talking with individuals, if we can connect for them, if we can talk to them at their level, both vocally, but also beyond vocally, like body language wise, if we can get the right tonality, if we can meet them on that level, then it's much easier to make that connection. Then I think that the leadership that can happen thereafter is much easier. The coaching that can happen thereafter is also much easier.
Yeah, how we show up definitely influences. It was interesting as you're saying that, immediately your body went, which told me, oh, we're looking for the question, we're formulating it, right? And we know that, but we are usually kind of blind to it because we got that. Yeah. We just have bodies, we're brains on a stick, blah, blah. But no, I could go, oh, he's at a question. Oh, and I'm sensing that there's some negative or downward energy. Oh, he's ambitious. Oh, he's excited. So what we're doing in the book, I talk about this idea. What we in coaching as an ontological coach or a somatic coach, what I'm trying to be is a somatic tuning fork. And the idea is what I do is I allow my body through practice, but we all have this skill. It's just whether we've practiced or not. I'm listening with my body. So we make a distinction. Hearing is biological. So I can hear you say the word cat, but listening is interpreted. I then add value. So for you, a cat may be something very valuable. For me, it may be an annoyance. So I'm listening that. So as a somatic tuning fork, what I'm doing is I'm allowing my body to create what we call limbic or somatic resonance. So I'm picking up on your body. But what I do as a coach is I don't actually get into that body. Right. So I don't go, oh, the coachee is very depressed or very angry. I then become very depressed or angry. I'm listening to, oh, okay. So my listening is they're very frustrated. They're very angry right now. And as a coach, I don't judge that. But what I'm going to try to help them do is see, right now you are angry. And when I'm angry, I want to strike back or get even. Okay, I'm not saying that's wrong, but is that going to take care of what you care about? Okay. Very simple example. Two moods which are very closely linked but very opposite kind of results. One is the mood of resentment. Resentment, the story I have is this is not fair. This was done to me. My behavioral predisposition is to strike back or get even with that thing that caused it. Okay? A different emotion is ambition. Ambition is a story, oh, there's some challenges, and I see that I can find a path. And my behavioral predisposition is to go towards what I want. So resentment and ambition are very closely linked because they're both about taking action. But in resentment, my action is towards getting even with the thing or the person that caused it. In ambition, my energy is focused on how do I get closer to what I care about. Now, I will make an assessment, and again, I'm not going to politics. There are a lot of people right now who are in resentment. I want to get even with that person. Okay, I'm not. But does that actually take care of what you care about? Right? Because what if we could create ambition to go, oh, yeah, that's an annoyance, but I don't care about that. I actually want to go over here. And the way we do that is in the body, because if I'm in resentment, how do we know somebody's in resentment? Because I can see tension. Their eyes are focused. There's tension in their hands because they're angry, right? I want to get even. Ambition is different. Oh, shoulders back, head up, eyes expansive, looking for opportunity. So all of this is available for most people, though. I think on one level, we kind of know it. But to your point, we kind of have said, oh, yeah, but that's just what it is, instead of going, oh, what if I, instead of me spending all my time in my story about my boss being a jerk, I just started focusing on what I want to create. Oh, I want to find ambition, right? And again, how does Superman stand? He doesn't stand, oh, God, I want to get even at that person. No, I want to go towards what I want more.
Well, okay, so, and you brought this up a couple times, and this reminds me of power poses. Power poses are where you purposely take that powerful stance, like Superman or whatever those stances. There's many different ones, and you do that for times if you feel like you are getting kind of down or you're frustrated or whatever the instance is, you go and take a power pose, stand there for a couple seconds or a minute or so, and then you move on from there. And what that does is it changes how your body then responds thereafter because of that power pose and what it does to you. And I know too, I work a lot with kids, and if you have a kid who's down and they're kind of, their head is down, they're not feeling so good. If you get them to look up and smile, to like just pretend to be confident, or you use the Batman, the Batman game, sometimes we call it, who you pretend to be Batman or Superman. And then what that does is that allows them to step into sort of somebody else's shoes, but it's just them, they're in their own body, but they act like that. And then that is then the byproduct thereafter.
But it isn't just acting. You said it. They step into it.
Yes. Yes.
So it isn't about a power pose. It's actually about being that person. Right. So it's deeper than that, because the way I'm not against power poses, but the way they are kind of presented is, oh, just act like this for a couple minutes, and then no, actually become that. So if I'm in a mood of ambition, the body has to be there to do that. And once I'm in that body, now I will see new opportunities.
So it is the game plan for the power, for them to do that pose more often. And then the more often they do it, the more often they will see themselves. Hopefully that becomes their identity as that powerful type
that
person.
Becomes their observer. Yes. So it isn't just about doing the poses, actually become that person. If you think about great actors, what do? They embody a role. Well, don't just pose that way, actually become that way. That's a practice. And here's what happens, though, is if I don't practice it, I can do a power pose, but what's going to happen is I walk out on the stage and guess what my body does?
Yep.
So it isn't about practicing it over here, then over here. It's actually embodying that. So in coaching, a lot of what we'll do is we'll look at, well, what is your shape? What's your observer? And how could you start practicing the you at your best self, the you in ambition, the you that's confident, right? So a way we do that, or one of the ways I do that, is we'll go through and we'll scan through their body. And what they'll see is, oh, when I'm confident, my feet are firmly on the ground. Oh, my shoulders are back. Oh, you know what? I noticed my breathing is slower and deeper. So instead of just practicing over here, actually, what if that's your practice now all the time? What if when you're giving the speech, your practice is to have your feet connected to the ground, your breathing is slow? I've done a lot of research into flow, ultimate performance, right? And what we realize in high flow states, high performers, they're actually in that body. So Game 7, you're from the Chicago area, Michael Jordan, Game 7, he's shooting the ball like he shot it 1,000,000 times with confidence. He isn't actually power posing it. That's who he is in that moment. He fully believes that he will make the shot. Now, here's where a lot of times in coaching, what people do is they look at the story. The problem with the story, though, is it a lot of times circles back on itself. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. The power of the body is I shift the body, the story disappears. If I'm confident, the story doesn't show up. So the practices, that's why I say the body is actually the Holy Grail. If I show up as confident, not just practicing, if I actually show up as that, I'll believe I'm going to make the shot. And when I don't, I'll say, okay, I'm going to make the next one. Because that's my observer.
Okay. Awesome. We're right on right where the sweet spot is. I think that's going to be what we're going to hit next. How do we actually do this part? I know some of the things that I've heard in the past is as a reminder to continue to practice this, right? Because, and I think there's a difference between habit and practice, because a habit is, I think, sometimes like a mythological thing where you set it and forget it. And then instead of being purpose and intentional about those things, you want to do the opposite of that. Whereas I don't think that's what you'd want to do with this. I think you want to be purposeful. I think you want to be intentional with this. So practicing this is, I think, the right phrasing to use. And one of the practices that I have heard in the past, and I try to do, although I don't always do a great job, is every time you walk through a door frame, you stand up straight. Like that is your signifier, your visual cue. Okay, I'm walking into a new space. I'm going to come at it like this. And maybe you have some key qualities that you want to emit or present as you walk into that space. And every time you walk through a door frame, that is your reminder, your cue to go and do those things.
Absolutely, right? So I use the word practice a lot, right? So people say, well, how do you do this? Well, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Take any discourse or practice, yoga, Tai Chi, martial arts, meditation. How do you get good at it? Practice. And you start by practicing not being good at it. But the more I practice, right? And to your point, the way I look at habits, see, if I ask you, do you brush your teeth daily? You go, yeah, it's a habit. But I bet your dentist would say you're not practicing correctly. Right? So I just went to my dentist recently, and I have a new practice, which instead of holding the toothbrush like this, I hold it like this, which allows me to hold it softer because I can't, right? I was practicing holding it like this for the last 30 or 40 years, and I was good at it. So the idea with practice is now it's a conscious thing. I'm actually practicing. So what ultimately what I try to help leaders get is to where I'm always practicing. I'm always practicing something. So in my case, I was always practicing brushing my teeth, which is good, but I was doing it incorrectly. And I was good at it because now it's just a habit. I don't think about it. I just pick up a toothbrush, right? Now I'm going back and I'm learning how to practice. So leadership is a practice like anything that the more we practice, the more we become good at it. To do that, though, one of the places we have to start is we have to have some awareness of what is it that I'm practicing. So I think it's far more powerful to just practice being confident, but also to have the somatic awareness of how does confidence show up in my body, right? Your practice of going through the door, pulling your shoulders back. Think about that. You were actually just practicing confidence. My shoulders are back. When I'm confident, I remember seeing an interview with Cindy Crawford, and she was talking, I don't even remember what she was talking about, but I was observing her body, and she was sitting there like this. If you watch models on a runway, they walk like this to say, look, here I am. If you or I got asked to go model on a runway, our bodies would, oh God, this is uncomfortable, right? And so, yes, so it is a practice, and what we practice, we become good at. And for most of us, because we've it became a habit. We're doing it blindly because we aren't consciously going, wait a second, right? If you look at the path to mastery, masterful people practice for the sake of practice. Right? Michael Jordan practiced shooting, he was good at shooting jump shots. He didn't just stop with that. I'm good. What did he do still every day? Practicing. And he would practice little things, right? So elite performers, a golfer is taking their hand and moving it a quarter of an inch, right? That's a new practice. And in that moment, they can tell like, oh, that feels different. Quarter of an inch. Yes, because they've practiced so much that they can go, oh, right. Like you'll see a golfer that when they hit an errant shot, by the time the club is coming out, they already know. Right? You and I don't know that. We hit a golf ball and we got to wait a couple seconds to see where it's going, if it's even going. So it is a practice. So practice is absolutely everything. And I can practice confidence. The military, I see it now. I didn't see it at the time. In the military, one of the first things you learn to practice is drill and ceremony, where you learn to walk like a soldier. But what's amazing as I look now, you're learning how to stand. You're learning how to speak from your gut. So when you're barking out orders, they're coming from your wholeness, like I am in command. Your body is erect, right? You're walking like that. It's so interesting. You take a platoon of basic trainees on day one. They're all over the map shape-wise. 8 weeks later, what do they look like? They all look the same. They have the same shape. Why? Because we're teaching them to take certain actions, because in the military, we need you to be able to follow orders. Right now, I'm not, some people, that's bad. No, it actually serves a purpose. So for me, with a military background, I didn't see that I had already been practicing And now, as I've gone down this path, I go, oh, but I can also practice other things. I can stand in, you could put me in front of a formation in the Army and I could still do it. Why? It's so embodied. But I also hope that that's not the only thing I can do. That's the only way I learned how to lead. So that's a habit. So I'm leading out of habit because that's all I know how to do versus, oh, I'm leading out of choice. I want to have this conversation because here's why I make that assessment. I'm listening to their emotions. I'm listening to their body saying, oh, this is the conversation we need to have.
And okay, so all of this is about, it comes back over and over again, is the shape. The shape, and I think you nailed it really good when you made that military reference where everybody is, day one, they're all over the place, and then you come back however many days later and they're prim and proper and everybody looks the same. They have the same shape. So then it is a good way to move forward and start practicing this, to think about the shape that you want to have. And okay, let me do this. Let me give a caveat. Is the shape that I have, the shape that, let me see, is the shape that I intend to have throughout my day always the same, or does it change based on where I'm going, who I'm talking to? I'm going to guess probably yes. And then is that kind of the first step, is to think about and critique, create the shape that I want to have in this environment, and then go and try to embody that.
Well, so one shape doesn't fit all, right? So if we use the analogy of a hammer, if I become a hammer, everything becomes a nail, lots of damage. It's great if I need to hammer and nails. So as leaders, it's the ability to navigate, to pivot, to adapt, right? The challenge for many leaders, especially somatically, is I don't know what to practice, right? That's why you have to have a coach. So elite performers have a coach that can watch and go, you see how you're holding the ball like this? I want you to take your finger and move it here. So we have to have a coach, somebody who's masterful in that domain or discourse that can say, oh, here's your tweak. Simple example. A lot of times when new coaches start coaching, they show up and their bodies are like this. They want to help. And so their energy is going to be, I'm going to help you get wherever you want to get. And a lot of times, one of the first practices I have them do is I'm like, I want you to just sit back in your chair. And I want you to feel the back of the chair with your back. And I want you to take your hands, I want you to relax them on the armrest, and I want you to connect your feet to the ground. And now I want you to coach from here. And all of a sudden, you can see them kind of, they don't know what to do, but as they relax into their body, the conversation slows down. Right? Think about this. If I'm in a hurry, what is my body's shape? Why? I got to get somewhere. Yeah. So literally by leaning into something, I move faster. Conversely, if I walk more on my heels, guess what that does to my speed? Slows me down. So yes, we want to practice that, but most people are blind to their bodies because I don't know what to practice. It's like anything. So if it's woodworking, I could go, well, just go practice. And you go, I don't know what to practice. Oh, but if you came into my wood shop, I go, okay, well, we're going to start with a table saw, and I want you to rip these 10,000 boards. And in the ripping of that, you're going to start to learn stuff. Not the stuff that can be taught. You'll start to be able to fill the wood. Oh, this feels like the binding it. Oh, that could be because the saw blade is dull. And I replace the saw. Oh, that's different, right? It's in the practice that we start to learn the distinctions. So it doesn't matter what it is. I cannot get good at it until I actually practice. Simple example, I can go give a kid a video game of driving a car. There you go. And they could spend literally their entire childhood doing that. Then I go, here's the keys to my Jeep, which has a manual transmission. Now go drive. And what can't they do? Why? Because there's a practice in learning how to feather the clutch and give it gas and shift and all of those things. Now, as an adult, I said, oh, this is so much fun. But if I go way back to when I learned how to drive, I couldn't do it. Why? I hadn't embodied it. And if I told the kid just learn how to drive the car, it is very likely they would struggle and struggle and struggle because they don't have the distinctions. Now, if a coach comes along and goes, oh, all right, take your left foot, put the clutch down. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put it in gear. I'm going to show you there's first gear. Now what I want you to do is lightly let the clutch out and give it just a little bit of gas. But what would they likely do? Like my daughters did, and car stalls. Or, right? But at some point, it's in that practice that they could start to feather the clutch, and all of a sudden they could inch forward. Why would leadership be any different? I have to learn how to do that. Unfortunately, for many of us, our learning is, okay, and this is not a condemnation of the education system, but we're taught to go here, memorize, pass a test, now go when you're done. We're not taught, oh, okay, there's a embodied practice called leadership, and your practice is never done. You're a beginner. You're going to practice this and practice this. So what I love, I still am practicing. I looked at writing the book as a practice. What am I going to learn as I dive deeper into this? Oh, I didn't know that. Right? But I could not have wrote the book I just wrote 10 years ago. Why? Because I hadn't done the practice. So a lot of what I'm always spending time with leaders is, what is your practices? And here's the funny part. A lot of times what they're practicing is frustration that it's not going fast enough. And they're good at it. Well, I'm supposed to be there. No, you're not. You're actually right here. Because what you're learning is how to practice not being frustrated. That's actually the missing practice right now. So real quick little story. One of my teachers, a man named Julio Alaya, who is kind of the founder of ontological coaching, amazing guru type presence. And somebody said to him one time, oh, Julio, I would love to do what you do. And he said, it's actually quite simple. You simply have the same conversation every day for 30 years. Right? And what he was saying was practice. And I'm now 21 plus years into this discourse of practicing. And I look at it and I go, oh my God, look what I could see. And I also go, what can I not see that I won't be able to see for 9 years? But if I go back to the me that started, what I was good at is frustration. What I was good at, I got to solve it. Give me the answer. Now, as I practice, I'm like, ooh, that's a great question. That's the power of practice. And I think for many people it's missing. But back to the body, what we don't see is I've been practicing a body in some form or another. So if I've been practicing frustration and wanting the answer, I'm good at it. But that might be what we call an enemy of learning.
Okay. Frustration. I think frustration is something that everybody, whether they're a leader or a coach or even just a parent, everybody interacts with some way, shape, and form frustration. And some people more often than not, because that's just where they're at all the time. What is a practice that they could do, that they could try on today to maybe move out of that state of being for their body and move to something that's a little bit more patient, or even just a few steps away from the current frustration that they're in right now?
Well, so for instance, frustration is a story that something isn't moving as fast as I think it should. So one is looking at, what is your story? So here's a practice I'm in. So I love woodworking. I love building things. I do not enjoy fixing things. So I have on my farm, I have a little Polaris Ranger that the throttle cable broke. And I'm like, because I know I'm learning that I can fix it. But what I'm learning is also that I then create a story like this. This is going to take 2 hours. I don't have 2 hours, blah, blah, blah. Instead of going, oh, I can practice patience right now. It's going to take whatever it takes. I have an option. I can go sell my Ranger and go buy a new one. But I'm actually not. I'm choosing to do this. So how do I want to be in this practice? So a lot of the basic practice is just becoming aware of what we call our observer. What's my story? What emotion am I in? And then somatically, how is that showing up in my body? Well, frustration is showing up as tension, energy. Here's a simple practice. Take a deep breath. Now, how often do you see somebody say, take a deep breath? But what do? We don't actually take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, but we don't actually do it. Well, actually, no, the practice is, and then recentering, going, okay, what's the opportunity here? What's the gift here? And then it is now a practice. So I look at it, I feel like I'm kind of at the point now when something breaks, I go, oh, here's a new practice where I'm going to get to practice being patient, practice being curious. Because in the past, when I had to fix something, I was like, I don't know how to do this, right? I already had a story, frustration. And then a great buddy of mine who's a awesome mechanic goes, you realize there's this thing called YouTube, right? You can literally type in how to fix a throttle cable on a 2004 Polaris Ranger, and there's some guy that go, oh, here's how you do it, right? Oh, now if I'm curious, I can start going, oh, well, you know what? I'm probably not the only person that's ever had to fix this. There's probably ways to do it. I could probably get curious about, I know it's here up under the dash. I know it connects over here on the engine. Well, I probably could just follow this wire. Oh, and it connect. Oh, well, I probably get right. That in itself is the practice. But what I was practicing was frustration, which is I have a story. This isn't going to work. It's showing up in my body. And this happens all the time. How do we shift our observer? So really what we focus on as an ontological coach, we focus on what is your observer? Because the observer we are sees and takes actions and gets results. Many times we focus on, we'll just take new actions. We say, well, how do we shift the observer? We shift either by linguistically, create a new story, emotionally shift our emotion, or somatically shift our body, which then shifts all three.
All right. You touched on observer there a couple of times, and I want to talk about that. But I also right next, I want to talk about your book, Observer. Jordan Peterson talks about you want to try to watch yourself as if you are the a predator watching the prey, and what that does is that puts you in the frame of mind to really be keyed in on all of the things you're doing, like more than just like watching, but like intently watching, because again, that's you're a predator watching a prey. Is that helpful as it relates to observing yourself from that outside perspective, or is that harmful? Because I've talked to people and I've heard both sides of it, so I'm curious your take on that.
So it's like watching film. If I can observe my observer, we call it the big eye, looking at myself. Now I can actually go, oh, well, what mood am I in? I'm pissed off right now. I want to get even. Oh, got to shift that. That in itself is a practice, because becoming aware of my observer, in a sense, I'm stepping back and observing me. I'm a predator observing my prey. I'm now doing two things are happening. One is I'm observing my behaviors, but secondly, I'm not in the story anymore. I'm observing it like, oh, it is a story. And I can go, oh, wow, I am fired up. Now, in the moment, though, for most of us, so many of our emotional states like frustration, anger, in the moment, I'm so in the emotion that I'm not aware it is an emotion. In that moment, it is the reality, right? So the analogy I use is a Rubik's Cube, right? So what happens is, and this is a lot of where coaching happens, the coachee shows up, and if you didn't know what a Rubik's Cube was, and I hold it up to you and I say, Chris, what do you see? What do you see?
I see a bunch of white squares.
9 white squares, right?
Yeah.
Because in this moment, that is your observer. The reality is, though, it's much more complex than that. But in the moment, you go, I just see 9 white squares. Okay? But what if instead of this changing, which won't, what if I shift how I observe it? I can literally physically shift how I observe it. And all of a sudden, that which previously was only 2-dimensional is now 3-dimensional. And oh, I think it actually serves me to look at it this way. But to do that, I have to shift me, right? And if we go back, I'm sure you've heard of Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, right?
Mm.
The idea in Auschwitz, he could not control that he was there. He could, however, control how he wanted to be with being in there. That I can control. I see so many people upset because Donald Trump said X, because the economy is Y, because this is happening. I'm not saying that stuff isn't happening. I am saying, though, that's your story of what's happening, right? As an example, Donald Trump hasn't really affected my day to day. And I'm not in the politics of it. I'm just simply saying I still got up in the same bedroom I got up yesterday, right? I took the same shower. I brushed my teeth, but I actually was in choice today and I brushed them a little bit differently, right? So if I'm going to I had a neighbor when Donald Trump was elected the first time for 3 months, didn't leave her house. I got up and put my pants on because I have stuff to do. When Joe Biden was elected, I got up and put my pants on because I had stuff, right? And that's where the power of learning to observe your observer to go, okay, I'm in a mood. But does it really serve me? Does it really serve me to be so angry at somebody who lives 1,000 miles away that I'm miserable? Or what if I take care of what I care about? Which is, my neighbor is sick. I could take him dinner. I can control that. I can cook dinner. Right? My boss said X. Okay, your boss said X. How do you want to be with that? Now, they could have said something that was flat out, 99 out of 100 people go, that's a bad thing to say. Okay. Still, how do you want to be with that? You have options. You can say, I quit. You can come in and say, I'm not going to be treated that way. I want to have a different conversation. Or you can go and, they're both choices. And that's really where the idea in ontological coaching, the somatic, if I shift my observer, now the world looks different, but it's still the same world. Real quick, one quick example. If I said to you, go look at your feet. Now, pull your head up and look around the room. Pull your shoulders back, look around the room. Okay? When you look down the first time, what did you see?
My feet.
Yeah. This time, what do you see?
Everything else.
Yes. The reality, though, when you were looking at your feet, everything else was still there. But I couldn't see it because my observer was focused down. Oh, by the way, resignation, frustration, depression, ambition, confidence. So when I show up to go, I'm going to look at what I can still from here, I can see my feet, but I now have all of this to look at. Which is going to take care of what I care of most? That, or I can't see the rest of the room now through my peripheral vision because I'm so focused on my feet.
Croft, I want to talk to you about your book. Authors are very interesting because they always have a in their mind, they have a reason they wrote the book, like the ideal person they're writing it to, and then the hopeful outcome that people have for the book. And I think that almost all authors are able to fit into those categories in some way. And so I want to ask you those questions. One, what was your driving force for writing this book? Who is your target person? Who is the ideal person for this? And what is the hopeful outcome for somebody reading your book?
The fundamental reason I wrote the book, I do a lot of mentor coaching with new coaches. And in ontological, generative, somatic type organizations, and the majority of the new coaches go, I kind of see language, I a little bit understand emotions, but body, I don't even know why we do the body. It's weird, it's ethereal. And so that was there. I looked back on my history and I said, you know what? In all of my learning, no one ever said why we coach in the body. They kind of alluded to what and where. And as a coach, no one ever said, here's how you actually do that. So I started looking around and I said, oh, you know what? What's missing? Because the books, there are some books on somatic coaching and stuff, but actually the irony is they're very in your head. And I said, I think we need like a somatic coaching for dummies. I don't think we need, those are great, but I'm pretty versed in it and they're even kind of heady for me. So I said, I just want to write a very simple beginner book that says, here's where to start. And so the target audience is anybody that's interested in this discourse, in this domain, exploring it. but it's written very simply why we coach in the body. That's where we get into the idea of the liquid accordion and this idea that we are this shape and this expansion and contraction. The what and the where. So if I'm going to coach in the body, where I look, simple example in the book, we talk about what we call pivot points. There are 4 places in the body that have more undue presence or influence than other places. Any quick guess where they might be?
Head, shoulders, hips. I don't know. I ran out.
Actually, in no order, eyes.
Okay.
So right now, wherever my eyes go, guess what my body does? Right? Jaw. Simple example, relax your jaw right now. And now get angry, your jaw relaxed.
It's a little tough to do.
Hands, more nerve endings than anywhere in the body are in the hands. And literally almost every action I take involves my hands and begins with my hands. If I said sit up, you would immediately grab your arm press, send an email, take action, brush your teeth, scratch your head, right? And then the 4th is the feet, right? The feet are where we touch with the earth. If I live on my toes, guess what? I tend to be more in the future. If I live on my heels, I tend to be in the past. If I'm present, guess what my feet do? My heel and my ball of my feet actually connect with the ground. So it's the why, the what, and the where. And then the last part of the book is how do you actually do this? What are actually in there? And in there, there are actually proven. Here's one example. There's what's called the scanner technique, which is literally here's the script. So for your basic practice, I want you to read this. And now I want you to read this 1,000 times. And as you read it 1,000 times, you're going to start going, oh, okay. Right. So here's the practices. So it's really designed for newer coaches, beginner coaches, and leaders that are actually out there. And I'm actually contemplating writing a different version of this, which is kind of a self-help book for what about the individual. But it would be more of here's way to start to observe your observer, and then how do you want to go forth in the world? And we'll see if that happens.
Wow, Croft, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for your invaluable insights. The somatic coaching that we talked about, the leadership tweak, the pivot that we talked about there. Your work is truly expanded the understanding of how our body is present in all of those things. And as we're getting ready to wrap up, do you have any key thoughts or final takeaways that you would like to leave the listeners with? And if they wanted to get in contact with you to work with you to get your book, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Well, the good thing about the book, there's only one liquid accordion book. Subtitles of Somatic and Embodiment Primer for coaching in, with, and through the body for leaders or coaches and leaders. Fairly easy to find. Go to liquidaccordion.com. My name, Croft Edwards, there's not a lot, so I kind of have the market on the Croft Edwards. So at Twitter or at X, at LinkedIn, connect with me. But really the takeaway I leave with people is this, is I firmly believe my most difficult leadership challenge is me. If I can get me out of the way, actually leadership's not difficult. But who gets in the way? I do, because I have stories. Because I don't want to play. I'm in a bad mood, right? So our biggest leadership challenge is ourselves. So it is self-mastery. That's the practice. Great leaders, I assess, practice their craft, and ultimately they practiced how they wanted to show up. And they got good at it, and that led to success.
Thank you, Croft. And listeners, if you found this episode enlightening, please subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. Until next time, this is Chris Bean for the Prestigious Initiative, bringing you the best in leadership, performance, and mindset.